video episode of What's Up Wenatchee, and I wanted to do an episode on something that is actually very personal to me. And if anybody follows me on Facebook mostly, you'll understand something that I am going through with my 5.5, almost 6-month-old son, which is the serious problem of all of the infant powder formulas being out of stock, mainly the Similac formulas and Similac Total Comfort formula. And this is not something that is unique just to Wenatchee, but being from a more isolated or smaller area within the country, a lot of moms, a lot of families are starting to feel the crunch, feel the panic of not having this in stock. So I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit and explain what is going on exactly with all of these infant formulas being out of stock. Now, up to this point, we have seen a lot of supply shortages in different areas as we were going into through the beginning of COVID. We heard toilet paper shortages, food shortages, and it started panic buying of things of that nature. Lipid shortages, we heard those. And then going into the holidays, Thanksgiving, we heard there was going to be a shortage of turkeys, which we didn't really see this year. And then now we're actually hearing of Christmas tree shortages, which I'm not really seeing that either. So I was skeptical when they gave the warning, hey, that there was going to be a infant formula, powder formula shortage. But then I started to see a couple of my other new mom friends on social media saying, hey, I'm having a hard time finding this formula. And it just happened to be the same formula, the Similac Pro Comfort, that my son uses. Now, why Similac Pro Comfort? And that's certainly not the only one that is out of stock, but there's a couple of reasons. And one is that there is supply shortages across the country. That is legit. There's a serious supply chain problem. It is not easy to get things from the manufacturers, wherever they are, into the ports. So that's number one. There is actually these cargo boats that are rubbernecked into the ports in Los Angeles and Long Beach, and there's just congestion there, and they're actually sitting out. So that if you have heard that, that is fact checked. I have heard that, and there's not as much manpower to work the ports to get that going. So people have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. And then not just at the ports, but also the transportation secretary said that there are issues that are going to continue as long as the pandemic continues, including domestic ground transportation. So people who are truck drivers, people who actually make the trailers. So there's trailer shortages, there are shipping container shortages, and there's shortages on truck drivers. So once they actually get into the ports off these cargo boats to get them onto trailers or into shipping containers and onto trailers for trucks is hard. So the whole supply chain down the line is having a hard time. So I started to actually see this myself. I needed to go and get formula, and they were just not there. So started to call around to different grocery stores here in town and even out of town, and they were saying, no, we don't have it, but here is when our trucks come in. You can check, you can call, and we'll let you know if they come in. And every time, every morning, there's different stores. So it's like I have to start like a spreadsheet, right? Because you don't know. And I luckily work very close to one of the stores, and I would be there right at opening because they would stock the shelves overnight, and you would go in and they would have every single thing except the Similac Pro Comfort or whatever it is that you needed, right? So it's very disheartening because we're not talking about toilet paper. We're not talking about something that you can jump in a shower if it doesn't work, or grab a bidet, or, we're talking about feeding our children. This is a very serious problem. And the other side to this that becomes a little slightly political is when you start to get into assistance for new moms. So a lot of moms in this town are either single moms or low income, and I fall into that category, and I'm not ashamed of it. I have needed assistance. So we have women, infant, children. I feel very blessed to live in a town that offers women, infant, children, or WIC. WIC does not have a contract with certain companies. So they only have a contract with Similac. Let that sink in. So even though the formula is almost exactly the same, Similac Pro Comfort is, and you can double check with your pediatrician on this, I am not a doctor, but you can check with them. The formula that they make Similac Pro Comfort is the same, contains the same ingredients as Enfamil Gentilese, and is probably the same as the generic brand. However, WIC only has a contract with Similac. So if WIC determines that you get 5 or 7 or 10 free cans of formula at the beginning of each month, you depend on that. You depend on those 10 free cans. You do not expect to have to pay for 10 cans of formula for your child, because that's expensive. That's upwards of $250, almost $300 more dollars, which if you could afford it, you wouldn't be on WIC in the first place. Am I right? And you can't just go to the store and say, oh, well, they don't have Similac, so I'm going to take Enfamil, because you can't go up to the register. They will not take your WIC card. So every person in town that now has, because all of the benefits renew at the same day, on the same day at the top of the month. So there's how many moms that are now looking for their 5 or 7 or 10 or however many cans of Similac on the same day in the same stores at the same time, which is hard enough when the product is in stock. When the product is not in stock, you're in a panic. It has moms going to Moses Lake, Chelan, everywhere, Leavenworth, wherever you can go. I had seen someone who said, we called Walmart in Moses Lake. They said they had the product. We drove all the way out there, which is however long, an hour and 15 minutes. By the time we got there, it was gone. Now, there are a lot of well-meaning people out there that are like, oh, there's this Similac Pro Total Comfort. There's a few cans at Target. There's a few cans wherever. That's great. I could use that. It's Pro Comfort Plus. But the problem is it's not approved, because when you are on WIC, you have very specific items that you can buy. So if you get approved for Similac Pro Comfort, or just plain Similac, or Similac fill in the blank, you have to get that product. It has to match exactly, or it won't ring up in the register. And to make it even more difficult, not every store accepts WIC. So while Safeway might take WIC, or Winco might take WIC, or Plaza Superjet might take it, Target does not. And I hear, just as a rumor, I haven't fact-checked this, that Target actually has it in their system to take WIC, but it's not activated. So for some reason, that's a case. And also, Winco takes WIC, but doesn't stock Similac Total Comfort. So somebody needs to tell them about supply and demand because they need to start ordering that. But even if they order it right now, there's no way that you can get it because it's stuck out on a boat somewhere. So the e.l.f. wasn't the only thing that was harder to get on the shelf this holiday season.